Welcome to George on Cars. Today, I've got an amazing video. I'm going to show you 5 things you should do to your Corvette when taking it out of winter storage. But before we get to the video, let me tell you a little bit about this month's charity of the month. And if you're enjoying the content on the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, as it really helps the channel get some visibility, and it only takes a second. And by the way, if there's any content you want to see on the channel, or if you want a cool George on Cars shirt like the one I'm wearing here, send me an email at georgeoncars@gmail.com, and don't forget to subscribe. This month's charities of the month are related to suicide prevention. Now, the World Health Organization estimates that over 1 million people a year die from suicide around the world. It's a global problem that affects people from all walks of life and all parts of the globe. I'm going to list a few suicide prevention charities in the show notes below. They're great organizations, so check out their websites, which has some amazing information. You can even volunteer your time or make a small donation if you like. Thanks a lot for supporting these great charities, and I hope you enjoy the video. Well, I know it doesn't look like it, but you gotta trust me. Spring is just around the corner, and it's almost time to pull your summer car out of storage. So today, I'm going to show you guys 5 things I do before I take my Corvette out for its first ride after a long winter's rest. Now, for many of us, putting our car away in the fall is the saddest time of year. And some of you may have seen my video where I showed you 5 things that I do to put my car away for the winter. Well, today, I'm doing this video on a much happier note, as I know we're all chomping at the bit to get our cars on the road. And for those of you that live in the southern climates and don't store your Corvettes, the rest of us hate you. Just kidding. All right, let's get the cover off and get started. So after you get the cover off and disconnect the tender, the first thing I like to do is check for any leaks and damage. I look under the car to see if any fluids have leaked onto the ground. Make sure that you check under the engine and the back end of the car to see if you've leaked any oil, transmission fluid, or radiator or power steering fluid. Once you've looked under the car, pop the hood and check the engine area to see if you can spot any leaks from the top of the engine. I like to pull out a good flashlight and check under the hood to see if I can spot any fluid leaks. At this point, you should also check for any damage to any wiring. Now, depending on where and how you store your car, you might find that some mice or other animals nibbled on your wiring or even built a nest. Also, don't forget to check your battery, as a leaky battery on a C5 Corvette can be particularly troubling. While under here, I also like to take a look at any hoses that appear to be damaged or might be leaking. It's better to find problems in your garage than a few miles down the road during your shakedown cruise. Now, the second thing I like to do before I take my car out of winter storage is check the fluid levels. Before I take my car out for that first ride, I like to double check some of the fluid levels. I always change the oil before I put the car away, but it never hurts to double check the oil level. I also check the rad fluid to make sure it's topped up and clean, and also it's not a bad time to double check your brake fluid level, power steering fluid levels, and any other fluids on the car. Now, if you didn't change your oil before you put the car away, it's a good time to do it now, or take it to your local garage and have them do it for you. Now, the third thing I like to do is I check the tire pressure. When I put my car away for the winter, I always put some extra air in the tires, which helps prevent them from flat spotting. But I always seem to lose some air over the 4 months that the car sits. So what I like to do is I take my tire pressure gauge and I check each tire to make sure the pressure is set to the manufacturer's recommended settings. On my Corvette, I make sure that it's at 30 psi. I also ended up buying this cool Ryobi tire pump, and it works great if you need to add some air to your tires, and it also has a built-in pressure gauge. While you're checking the tire pressure, it's a good time to give the tires a quick look to see if you have any nails or other damage to them. Now, the fourth thing that I like to check on my vehicle before I take it out of winter storage is I check the battery, lights, and turn signals. I know I mentioned checking the battery for leaks in step 1, but if you took your battery out of your car during the winter, make sure that you charge it before you put it back in the car. If you had it on a good quality tender, you should be all set. This is also a good time to double check the terminals for any corrosion and clean them up if necessary. If you're not sure if your battery is properly charged, hook it up to a battery tester and check it to see how many volts it has. After I'm sure the battery is charged and ready, I like to check the lights, turn signals, and brake lights to make sure that everything is working before I go out for my first ride. So the fifth and final step is put the insurance back on your car and do your shakedown cruise. Okay, if you've done steps 1 to 4, you're all set to do your shakedown cruise. First thing though is make sure that you put the insurance back on your car. This is easy to forget as you're probably excited to get back into your Corvette for the first time in months, but it's an important thing to do. Once I get the insurance back on the car, I start the car for the first time and I let it warm up for a few minutes before I move it. I like to give all the fluids a chance to circulate and warm up since the car hasn't been started for almost 5 months. The next thing I like to do before I get going is check the brakes. Press the brake pedal and make sure that you have decent pressure and that the pedal doesn't drop to the floor. Sometimes if a car is stored for a while, you can have problems with the brakes or they can seize up. And it's good to find that out in your garage and not out on the road. For my first ride of the season, I don't typically venture too far as I don't want to be a long distance from home in case something goes wrong. I also drive pretty easy on that first ride and I keep an eye on the gauges to make sure that the water temperature, oil temperature, and other gauges are all within the normal operating temperatures. Once the car is good and warm, I'll run it through the gears a bit more enthusiastically to see how things go before I wrap up that first ride of the season. Well, that's it. Those are 5 things I do before I take my summer car out of winter storage. Thanks for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe. And more importantly, support the charity of the month if you can. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.